Hi crafty friends, it's Donna here, and I've got a set of cards for you today for people who perhaps don't have the time to colour or perhaps don't have the confidence to colour images. These floral cards all use patterned paper as the background. These cards are quick and they're easy. I'm going to talk you through a few things that you need to think about when colouring on patterned paper, show you some ideas for simple ways to colour, and then I have some more examples to show you at the end. I'm going to demonstrate with some floral stamps from Paper Rose Studio. The first two, this Blossom Bouquet and also Blossom Branch, are new releases, and also I'm going to be using the Daisy Bouquet, which is much older and one of my favourites. When it comes to choosing a paper, I suggest that you have a look on the back of your favourite patterned papers. I've got a few different packs here to show you what I mean. This one is called Winter Backgrounds, and I could use almost any of it. This Botanical Blooms paper pack has lots of backs that I could use. This pack is called Butterfly Bliss, and there are a lot of pattern papers that I could use here. Or, if you like rainbows, this Rainbow Garden Basics has a lot. You could stamp and colour over the sky portion of busier papers, like this Happy Easter collection, or use the backs, as I'm going to do with this linen paper here. Now, depending on what you want to colour with, you might like to use either an alcohol-friendly ink like Memento Tuxedo Black, or if you're wanting to use a watercolour medium, like these Zig Clean colour markers, then I'm choosing to use VersaFine Onyx Black. You can see where I'm doing this colour testing, that both the water brush markers and the Copic markers give good coverage on this paper. But we need to note two things. Firstly, because of the coating of ink on the paper, these markers are not going to sink in and blend like they would on regular cardstock. Secondly, all of the papers that I've chosen are completely coloured. Pattern covers the whole piece of paper. There's no white background left showing. And that's important because both of these markers will behave differently on the plain paper that's underneath the ink of this patterned paper. I've stamped this Blossom Branch here, some cherry blossoms, and I've just chosen one pink that shows up very lightly, and I'm going to do a few delicate strokes from the centre out. That's all I'm doing for the flowers. It's a great idea to keep a piece of the same patterned paper on the side that you can use to trial your colours. And that's what I've done when deciding what to do with these, perhaps leaves, perhaps buds. In the end, I went for a soft green, and I've just made a few gentle flicks starting at the base of each of those. That's literally all I did. I've stamped thank you from that Daisy Bouquet stamp as my sentiment, but the colouring is so simple. It would be a great activity to do with that friend that says they're not crafty, to lure them down the slippery slope of card making. Here's another example, using the same technique on the petals, but an even paler colour. This is surprisingly the types of colouring that actual cherry blossoms have. Before I went to Japan, I always thought that they were pinker. For the leaves, I'm just going to colour those thin lines with no shading. If you're not wanting to do little strokes, and perhaps you want to colour in the whole image, here's another idea that you can try. Stamp your image on your background paper. I've chosen a rainbow this time to show you how the colours that I'm choosing will work across different backgrounds. Once you've got that stamped, then choose some neutral colours. I've chosen a very, very pale yellow, it's a cream almost, and a grey. It's actually B60 because I can't find my grey that's about that darkness, but it still reads as grey. If you colour all of each of the petals, they stand out just a tiny bit from the background, and the colour that you've put on top is so subtle that the background colour still shows through, and the pink flower with the addition of the yellow becomes a little orange, then we have a little bit of green in the top, and so on. I've used the cream for the flowers and the grey for the leaves and stems. I came to these shades through a little bit of trial and error, as you can see by the sheet that's coming up, where I've tested various greys and various yellows to see which ones I wanted to use and where I wanted to use them. Once that's done, I'm going to cut this panel down to size and add my sentiment. Now, it's not really part of what this video is about, but I thought I would just show you how I added my sentiment, since it's in two parts and there's a teeny tiny trick that you probably know, but may not. First of all, I'm using my stamp still in the plastic to audition my sentiment in various places. And I've decided to say, thanks for always being there. I've stamped the for always being there on the card, and then without moving the card from my MISTI, I'm going to put in a piece of scrap paper, stamp it again, and then position the thanks and check that I'm happy with where it is. And I'm not. So I move it, and I'm still not. So I move it again and again and again, and eventually I'm happy with where it is and I stamp it. Because I stamped the two parts separately, I can get the sentiment much closer together than I could if I had them next to each other on the same stamping block. So that it really stands out, I'm going to add some clear embossing powder and just heat set that. You might have noticed that the middle card had a cut apart sentiment on it, and it comes from this incredibly messy by now pack called Rainbow Poppies Sentiment Strips. It's one of my most used products. I'm going to show you a few more ideas now. These are actually cards that didn't make the cut, and I'll tell you why. This stamp is called Big Bloom, and I'm using that VersaFine ink because I'm going to use the watercolour markers this time. I tested my colours along the top, and I quite liked them, but actually they were too dark. So when I coloured in the image, I didn't like the result, and I coloured over the top of it, trying to fix the result, and as a result of that, my colouring got all blotchy and I couldn't use the card. And my original plan was to go back and get another sheet of this paper and show you the idea again, with lighter colours and a beautiful final product. But when I went to check, this was the last sheet that I had, and so I couldn't do it. But I do want to show you this card because I think that if it was done properly, it would be gorgeous. And I might play with that idea a few different ways and get back to you with another video and see what we can come up with. But for now, in all its blotchy glory, here's the idea of the card. These next two cards have nothing wrong with them. They just weren't my favourites. And so perhaps they're your favourites, so I have included them to show some different background papers and what you can do. Here's that linen paper that I spoke about earlier, and I've used the same techniques as earlier, except that I have used two different colours on the leaves and layered them up. This paper rose stamp is called Hayley's Bouquet. And finally, another card using the Blossom Bouquet stamp. Again, it just missed the cut at the front of the video because it wasn't my favourite. Simple as that. And the other three cards all went so beautifully together in one photo. I'm sorry, orange card, you just didn't do it for me. I'm going to leave you with some final pictures of the cards that were my favourites. And I hope that you're able to rummage through your stash, find some stamps that you can use these techniques on, and perhaps even share some card making with a friend. Feel free to like or subscribe if that is your wish. You do you, there's no pressure to do anything here, but those likes and comments just help grow the channel and help people to discover where we are here. And I will be back soon with another video. Bye for now.